I'd like to now say hi to Mira. Hi, Mira. Are you with me already?
Hello. Yes, I am. Delighted
Hey,
to be
Mira.
here.
We are so privileged and delighted for you to join us today. So thank you for your time. So before giving the time for you to present your presentation and give us your lecture, I'd like to give our audience a brief of introduction about you. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mira is a senior director for talent management and organization alignment Asia Pacific. She is based in Singapore. Mira has more than 20 years of experience working with organizations in the private and public sectors in both corporate and consulting roles. In the area of talent management, Mira has led teams designing and implementing programs across a wide range of solutions aimed at building people capability to deliver business results. And these include development and implementation of competency frameworks, core, leadership and functional, performance management system, career management programs, talent management programs, including design of frameworks and processes for high potential identification and development, leadership assessment and development, and so on. Mira has also worked in the areas of organization culture, cross-culture, and change management, supporting organizations as they transition to meet new challenges in an increasingly global world. So Mira, I'd like to give a context about our audience profile. So most of our audience profile are leaders in state-owned enterprises, or we call it BUMN. And it's not only at the national level, but also regional, provincial, and city level. And you are actually being watched by more than 15,000 participants now. So we are joined by virtual participants who are watching and are very excited and enthusiastic to learn new things from you. And previously we got Professor Dave Ulrich of Michigan University, and of course you have already known Dave, and we got lots of enlightenments from Dave about leadership, core, and other precious materials from Dave. Now I'd like to give the time for you, 40 minutes for your presentation, Mira, and we'll continue with Q&A session. Please, the time is yours.
Thank you so much. As I said, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm really delighted to introduce to you a different way of looking at leadership. In the past almost 20 years that I've been here in Singapore, I have been working with governments in Singapore and in the region to support the huge transformation that is happening. And of course, all of us know that Indonesia is where the future is at. All in line to be one of the biggest economies and clearly one of the fastest growing digital economies. So it's with that context that I'll start with this picture. I think most of us went through this kind of frustration some years ago. And to me, this speaks a lot about leadership and change today. Most of you leaders have made where you are these senior positions of responsibility because you're good, because you've done things well, because you know how to lead work, you know how to lead people. But the world around us is changing and changing so fast that suddenly it feels like the old ways are not fully suited. Ways that worked so well may not be the right way going forward. We may not be able to charge up our organizations and our workforces. So what is this new reality we're seeing? I'm sure you've heard about it a lot. You've heard about it today, and you will hear about it as the other speakers talk as well. But clearly, there's technology changing everything around us, helping us make the workforce more productive, but also putting pressure on us to deliver in certain ways. We do know that, well, change has always been there. Leaders have always had to make decisions, but now speed has become key. And we are expecting leaders to act really fast, to make decisions without knowing what's happening around in detail. We also see that pace picking up. An oft-quoted statistic is it took 75 years for the telephone to get 50 million users. When you look at Angry Birds, it took them 35 days to hit 50 million users. And all of us thought, wow. But then Pokemon Go came and achieved that number in 10 days. That's how technology is speeding up. And that's what's putting pressure on us in terms of being quick to react, to respond, to seize opportunity. We're also dealing with new types of organizations. We all know that layers of leaders no longer exist. We need flat organizations. Our workforces are not all sitting in one location, more so today with people working from home. We're also seeing increases in cost. So while there's rapid growth in many of our companies, the truth is the cost keeps rising as well. And so profitability margins are getting squeezed. With the pressures brought about by the pandemic, we are seeing the need to manage more of the risk associated with supply chains and making sure that talent itself is better compensated. Within this whole environment where we say ambiguity and lack of information is rife, we still have the pressure to tell people more, to give them more information, to give people more transparency. Today, a lot of people go on to organizations like Glassdoor to see, what are we saying about companies? What are the kinds of benefits being offered? What are the kinds of salary ranges being offered? And at the end of the day, with all that's happening around us, people expect us to focus on not just safety, but well-being of people, and well-being being emotional well-being, financial well-being, as we go through this new world of work. With this, we're also seeing that there's no such thing as digital strategy. A lot of organizations talk about the digital revolution. And the line I really liked is this one. It's just strategy in a digital world. I know you're going to talk more and hear more about digital talent, about digital transformation. So let me just move to talking about the new workforce. Yes, this is a US picture, Uber. We are more comfortable with Grab and Gojek, but that is what our workforce is expecting. We're expecting when we want it, when we need it, we can quickly, in seconds, decide what we want and have it with us very quickly at low prices. This is what the workforce is expecting from the organization as well, in terms of access to resources for work, in terms of benefits. We are also seeing huge talent shortages. In a country like Indonesia, these are not shortages of people, but really mismatched skills. So how do we find the skills we need? How do we build the skills we need? These skills reside in people who have different views of the world. We're no longer seeing people looking at careers as I have to work and earn and I'm searching for security alone. More and more, we're seeing companies that focus on purpose are doing better, are being more profitable. Individuals want careers that reflect their core values, that give them opportunities to develop in ways they want to be developing. And of course, there is the whole new workforce. There was a LinkedIn leader who said quite off the cuff that people will have 15 job changes. And the truth is that compared to past generations, where people stayed in a job, where you look to what we in Singapore call the iron rice bowl, the workforce of today, knowing there is demand for high demand for skills, are very comfortable looking to see what is the next step that will help me. We have a number of people who are in the gig economy. In fact, I was looking at some statistics recently, and it said that 33.3 million Indonesians say that they are in the gig economy. And this is a 25% hike from the year before. Now, the figures I'm talking about are 2020 figures. Given what's happened in the last year, one can only imagine that number has increased significantly. Then falls upon leaders to say, how do you then lead a workforce when everyone is not working in the same place? They're not working as full-time employees. You may say to me, well, as public sector organizations, as government organizations, this may be less important for us. But we are seeing, if we look to organizations in the US, in the UK, that large government organizations, NASA, DARPA, which is the Defense Research Organization, are all using gig workers solely to get access to skills, really specialized skills that they can't have in-house. So in this context, if work is changing, what's expected is changing, the workforce is changing, surely then we can't stick to old paradigms of what makes for effective leadership. We have to start looking and saying, okay, so what does leadership look like in this new world? We understand as we talked, so we got leaders from really the top organizations, those who are very future oriented, those who are already doing things in advance of their industries. So in 2019, which today seems like a whole different era, we spoke with 500 CEOs and chief people officers. And they told us their focus was first, rethink culture. Think about what is needed as an organization culture, what is needed in terms of a new way of looking at leadership, and how do we manage the employee experience so employees feel proud to work, they feel aligned with the organization and committed to deliver. They also told us that they were focusing on agility, not just getting their organizations agile, but really pushing boundaries and seeing how far can we go to break old ways of doing things, old firm structures that were preventing us from collaborating, from innovating, from performing. Of course, digitalization was very high on the agenda, and was this new view of how can we continuously reinvent work? And that was looking at saying, how does work get done? Where does work get done? Who delivers this work? Are there ways that we can have people and automation working together to supplement each other? Are there ways we can use gig workers? Are there ways we can outsource or partner to deliver on work? And finally, how do we use analytics to really bring in decision science into the way we are leading our people, we are managing our people? So with all of this, we took a step back as well and said, let's look through all the data we have. Let's look and understand what it is that actually is going to help us drive leadership. What we came up with was the fact that it was time to go beyond leadership competencies. So what you're going to see is not a new leadership competency model. It's a model we call the 3P, or the leadership impact model. Looking across leadership, the success, and understanding at the end of the day, how do we evaluate leaders? We realized that when you're looking at a leader, you're looking at, did they achieve something? You're not looking at, is that leader open to feedback? We're not asking, is this leader someone who gets into detail? That's not how we talk about successful leaders. We talk about them, driving organization growth. We talk about them changing the culture, increasing innovation. So talking about leadership impact made us believe that we need to have a model that goes beyond looking at just competencies and finds a way to link the behaviors of leaders to organization outcomes. We tested this as well. So when we asked organizations, we found that those who said their leaders were actually performing better when it came to professional, people, and pioneering metrics, these were the organizations that were also more mature on their digital transformation journey. So clearly, it's important when it comes to changing the organization, transforming, becoming more digital, to have this kind of leadership impact. Let me go a little bit deeper and talk about each of these impact areas. So the first impact area is professional. Your leaders who have professional impact are those who are going to be effective at leading in situations where they need to know the technical detail, where they're able to manage the reputation of the organization, where they're able to ensure operations are running smoothly. I'll go in a little bit depth later as I talk about each of these to help you see the areas of impact and also the areas of risk created by each of these leaders. People who are strong in the people leadership area, they're likely to be really successful in driving that energy of the organization, the commitment, the focus. They're likely to be those who can break down silos to collaborate and work across boundaries. Also, they're people who are able to bring people together and ensure everyone is sharing a common vision and focusing on common goals. The third area of impact is pioneering. These leaders are likely to be what we would call your growth leaders, leaders who are going to be effective at identifying new market opportunities, new opportunities for products, new products available. They're the ones who would likely drive organization transformation, getting organizations to realign, restructure, focus around new skills. They're the ones who would set ambitious goals for growth and performance and drive them. So as you look at these three areas of leadership impact, we can go one step further and look and understand what type of impact is derived in each of these areas, and then understand as well, how does this map onto our own organization? How does this map onto our own leaders? Let's start with professional impact. We've said these leaders are those who are really know their jobs well. The impact these leaders could have is on service and product delivery. They're the ones who would be able to drive quality standards, ensure that people are delivering, there is excellence, there is speed, customers are satisfied, the solutions that are being put in place actually match customer needs. They're also people who would impact the risk in an organization. And we're talking about risk here in terms of, having SOPs, managing governance. All of us know that world over, regulators are getting a lot stricter. We're getting a lot more laws coming in to manage employee safety, customer safety, and financial integrity. The impact leaders with professional impact have would be to manage that kind of risk. The third area of impact for these leaders would be managing expert reputation. So with their own expertise, ensuring that there is in the team the right expertise to be delivering, ensuring that products and services are at high quality, and of course, managing the organization's reputation, so quick recovery if anything goes wrong, and of course, putting things in place to make sure the organization is seen as a trusted and high quality service or product provider. One of the things that makes this even more important today is the fact that with the changing world of work, with more of us working remotely today. Today I'm coming to you from my office at home, not from um, a formal workplace, as it were. How then do you manage issues of cybersecurity, of data security? All this is under that professional impact. With this strength also comes the dark side. So leaders who are really good at professional impact could also create some risk. And that risk could be these three. They could be a perfectionist, looking at all the finer details and ensuring work meets high standards. Great, but also has some downsides, as any one of you who's worked with a boss who would get down into the nitty gritty and check every last bit of your work. Procedural leaders may be very SOP oriented. Great when it comes to managing risk, ensuring standardization, but not so great when our customers, when the public need us to be quick, when they need us to be agile or responsive to changing environments. Critical leaders, they may take a look at work with a very critical way to say, what could go wrong? What are possible errors here? Let me just go one step further, and I'll take one of these and talk to you about how that risk could create an impact on the culture of the organization, on the organization itself and its results, much less on the leader. So let's look at critical. A critical leader looks to spot problems, manages the risk, and that's great. But they could also come across as being very negative. They could come across as the person who says, cannot. So the impact it could have on the organization is the organization loses the suggestions, the viewpoints of other people who tend to keep quiet because the leader would say no. Or an idea may not fully be explored, and therefore you lose opportunity. The team working with this leader could be quite demotivated because the focus is on what could go wrong, what is not right. There could be a default of, no, we can't do that. We've never done that before. Or nitpicking on tiny things. So you could see how it could impact a team if you had a leader who was very critical. Now, if you had a few senior leaders in the organization who are very critical, it would make a huge impact on how quickly that organization could adapt, how open they are to ideas, and how effective they could be in really driving transformation. With that, let's start looking at the people area of impact. The people area of impact looks at three main impacts that a leader could have. The first one is organization commitment. And this is about the leader really creating energy in the organization, building a vision for people, getting them to buy into that, inspiring them, building that motivation and morale. This is something we're seeing increasingly important, especially now, if we look over the last almost 2 years, where individuals are quite struggling with motivation and just a general sense of well-being. These leaders can also focus on building successful teams. They are able to put together a team going beyond someone who looks like me or thinks like me to create that diverse team. They are effective at empowering, building people, and utilizing potential. And importantly, these leaders have impact when it comes to communication, creating an environment where there is transparency, where people understand what's happening and can be aligned, these individuals bring together people from across boundaries, whether they're working in a far-flung province versus a big city, getting teams together across different functions, encouraging communication, collaboration, and really taking a consultative approach. We do see that given the demands of the workforce, this is something we're expecting from all leaders, to create this environment that really allows people to blossom, allows people to give of their best. But as we said, with every level of impact, there's also potentially a dark side. The dark side or potential risk that could be caused by people-focused leaders could be that they are obliging. They're nice people. And because they're accommodating and adaptive, they work well with others, but they could also put a lot of stress on themselves, leading to potential burnout, or a lot of stress on their own team by not saying no. You do have leaders who could be autonomous, comfortable working alone, and quite comfortable working and making decisions without bringing others on board or consulting with them. Or you could have leaders who are very comfortable socially, very comfortable speaking out, persuading, presenting, dominant in social situations. Charismatic, yes, but also potentially making other people stay more quiet or perhaps compete for attention. Let's look at the type of risk that I've seen very often working with organizations, and that is the autonomous leader. The leader who works alone, doesn't really go across functional boundaries to collaborate, and acts to make sure their division or their department is delivering. What ends up happening then in terms of the risk it creates is the organization may not really see all the resources it has. They may be replicating things that are happening or not really using the best skills or the best resources. In terms of the culture, people feel this need to do things themselves. There is not a culture of collaboration and support. People would need to look out for themselves and do what we call in Singapore, profile themselves, make sure that the leader knows. Another common term we use here is wayang. So this is the kind of environment you create when you're really looking at a very individualistic point of view. The risk to the leader is high here as well, because when people see someone running off by themselves, doing their own things, they tend not to be consulted, and they could be off track, as it were, in terms of not being part of the wider leadership. The last area is that of pioneering impact. And this is the area we're seeing a lot of focus on now, because as we looked at, a world where maintaining what you did, increasing your efficiency was important, then the professional leader and the people leader was very important. But as we're looking at a world where organizations are looking at transformation, as there is a need to find new ways of doing things, as there's a need to adapt and be agile and take out responsibilities, we are seeing an increasing focus on the pioneering impact. The pioneering impact is really looking at leaders who have the potential, who are able to look at gaps in the market and say, what services need to go in there? Or what are different ways we could serve a market? How could we drive innovation, come up with new ways to meet the needs of our customers? They also have impact in terms of transforming the organization, delivering on that change initiative, getting people to buy into change and see that vision, and then actively managing to make that shift. I think all of us have heard of all the statistics that say most organization transformations are not successful. And we're looking here at these leaders to make that successful, going beyond the technical part of change, but also managing the people part of change. And finally, we're looking at driving organization growth. And this is all about increasing value to the people who are important, whether it is our stakeholders, shareholders, employees, establishing challenging goals and driving that success. As we said, there are risks here as well. The kind of risks that could be created by pioneering focused leaders could be that with their innovation, with their new ideas, they could be disruptive. With this push to change things and reach a new normal, their behavior could come across as unpredictable. And for those who are willing to seize opportunities, who are really bold and courageous, there could be certain risks created to the wider organization with this focus on what's new and what's next. I'll talk a little bit about disruptive leaders, largely because we've recently done some work looking at women leaders in the financial services for one of the Asian markets. Most of them came up with this risk. And the risk is that with these alternate ideas, seeking to do things differently, it could disrupt productivity. You are changing the way everything happens. With this focus on doing things new for the organization, there could be a lack of focus on strategies and goals. Doing things new could also expose the organization to regulatory risk through non-compliance. It could create a culture in the team where people are seeing a lot of change and don't know where they should be focusing. There could be distracted efforts, and the ends could justify the means. So you may create a culture where it's okay not to follow the SOP. It's okay not to follow the regulations. For each of these situations, you can see that one leader could impact the culture of their team. They could create risk to the organization. But if you looked at the senior leaders of the organization together, you may see a picture where an entire senior team may be creating certain risks where perhaps a lot of them are very critical, or it could be a very accommodating senior team. And so this is helpful not just looking at the individual, but also looking at teams themselves. So we've looked at new ways of looking at leaders, looking at the impact they create, understanding what's important there and the risk. But let's also then start looking at how do you then pull all of this together and apply it to your own organization? What does this mean for you? In a recent conversation with a number of senior leaders, we learned that 96% of organizations are actually saying, we've got different types of leadership roles. We're no longer looking at a one-size-fits-all leadership. Almost half of them said the specialist leadership roles, people with very targeted skills, those numbers are increasing. Both of these immediately speak to the question I get asked all the time. What is your model for high potential? There is no model for high potential. If leadership roles are diverse, if specialist leadership positions are increasing, how can one size fit all in the definition of potential? The other thing that worries a lot of organizations is the fact that the moment we've got a high potential program and people apply or get nominated, not everyone can be in that program. So typically, you're rejecting at least 80% of people who may be valuable performers, but they're not people that you're actually investing in. So how could we look at all of this and then fix these? The answer would be to say, let's look at each specific leadership position and understand what's most important. What you're seeing here are actually the kind of roles that leaders need to play. And you will see they're mapped onto the purple for professional, the blue for people, and the green for pioneering. As we look at this range and say, let's think of a specific leadership position and say what is going to be most important in that position, we're then able to build a success profile. So let's take a look at this. So here's a shot where an organization looked at it and said, my head of quality needs to have these areas, those highlighted in yellow, as being most important for them. We asked another organization about their head of quality, and they said, oh, we don't need them to be a catalyst innovator. We've got a head of R&D who has to do that. So very quickly I learned that you can't even take one role and map it to another organization. This has to be done for your own organization because you know best how that role is defined. So if you step back and take a look at this role, you'll see a lot of things about the people, but more things about professional, about principles and procedures, about technical understanding, about building the team's capability, and really looking at analytical capability and their own experience and knowledge. Contrast then with a business head. A business head does not necessarily have to focus on any of those. Their role is much more about seeking growth, about taking opportunity, being competitive, dealing with crisis, driving change and innovation. So using the same framework, measuring the same things, we can understand what's most important for a role, but also as you're developing your leadership pipeline, understand who is perhaps best suited to be part of a pipeline, part of a succession plan for a particular role. Are there some skills you need to build in individuals to drive them and help them get ready to take on a particular role? So the one size fits all, we've said, doesn't work. The competency-based approach doesn't work. The potential model doesn't work. Really a tailored approach to what impacts the business and what is expected of each in leadership role is what's going to drive future success in leadership.
Mira, can you hear me, Mira?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry for interrupting. So just so you know that the time, you've only got 9 minutes left out of our 40 minutes time, just so you know. And we'd like to remind our audience as well, if you have any question, please drop your question now to the chat box, or you may raise your hand. For those who are in this room, please, you are welcome. If you need any translation or translator, we are ready to help you. So do not hesitate to ask questions to Mira, because this is a very rare opportunity. Please continue.
Thank you so much, Rory. And to the audience, I am waiting for those questions and look forward to them. We've been talking so much about leaders. There are things, though, that are expected from all leaders. So while we do say we need to have a leadership profile that suits a particular role, the fact is that what people are going through right now is a large crisis. It is a change in the world of work, the way we work, and the impact is really tremendous. And so this has been called by everyone, and I'm sure you've heard it before, you'll hear it again. This is a defining moment for leaders. Leaders will be made or broken based on how effectively they take the opportunities to transform the organizations and to recommit to their people as in the public they serve, their employees. And so what we are seeing as expectations across is that leaders all adopt an agile, continuous learning mindset, that they seek actively to hear perspectives and engage and communicate with stakeholders, that they focus on employee and company well-being, and that they balance what's needed to be done to keep the organization delivering, but also the long-term views of the organization. While we're doing this, it would be very remiss of me not to also offer leaders some support, because we are seeing there is a big ask on them. We're putting a lot of burden on leaders to adapt, to have impact, to manage risk. How can we then help them understand what's most important as they focus on employees? We do know that the organizations your leaders are in charge of are expecting a lot from people. Beyond the old, do your work well, deliver high quality within your timelines. We're now asking people cope with not knowing. We don't know what the future will bring. We don't know how your job is going to change, but we want you to be okay with that. We're going to introduce new skills to you. We want you to pick them up very easily. We want you to be comfortable changing and changing and changing. Through it all, we want you to manage your emotions. We want you to stay positive. We want you to keep communicating. That's actually quite a big ask. We went back and did a lot of research looking at 10 years of big data. And we determined that there was actually a kind of resilience that we were expecting from people. And we call that resilient agility. Now, we all know that agility is something that is very prized, that we've looked for in high potentials, but resilient agility is different. This is a kind of agility that can be maintained over a long period of time. Most of us have been dealing with pressures and stresses of the pandemic for almost 2 years now. Individuals who demonstrate resilient agility are likely to be effective despite multiple change. They have the capacity to bounce back from setbacks, to adapt and adopt changes. We also note that the behaviors that are linked to this, to resilient agility, also predict potential. They also predict performance in the workplace. So what is that we're looking for from the organization, from every employee? It's really these 4 key things. Dealing with change, that is being open, embracing change, and dealing with not knowing, with uncertainty, by remaining calm and being positive. At the same time, we want people to be active in keeping their connections alive, communicating with people, participating in initiatives. Many organizations have dealt with the fact that people are working from home by organizing, virtual meetings, virtual games, engagement activities, but not everyone's comfortable participating. The third area is really having individuals use their own experiences, use their own knowledge to make recommendations and suggest new ways of working. How can we get things done despite the constraints around us? How do we make sure we continue to deliver on our work plans? And finally, how do you maintain your focus, your energy, your ambition? How do you keep looking for opportunity and using that opportunity to improve what we're doing, improve the impact, and keep everyone focused on what we need to do on our work objectives? So if this is the model that defines an individual's ability to be resilient, we think that leaders would be very much served in supporting their people if they understood where people stand. So we have seen that it's not this one change, but we are expecting continuous reskilling. We're expecting continuous change. So having individuals understand how they approach change, understand what are their strengths, how they could use them, how could they improve their capacity to deal with change and setbacks? How do you increase their capacity to actively contribute all their knowledge, all their energy, all their excitement, and build confidence in them that they can go through this, they can be effective with large change? Perhaps more importantly, from the perspective of advising leaders, is how does the organization focus on change? So looking at everyone's results together, I can understand what is the dynamic here? How can I support the whole team? Can I understand my organization's capacity for change? Because I can only move people as fast as they can be moved. How do I build the strength in that? How do I ensure that I have the people part of transformation effective? And let me share with you something we recently had with the leadership team. So when they looked at their own results for maintaining drive, they saw for most people, keeping focused on getting work done, delivering their objectives was a strength. There was no one for whom it was a challenge area. And the team relaxed and said, yeah, we know this. We are seeing our teams delivering. There's no drop off. Everyone's doing very well. Our results are actually phenomenal through this whole period of stress and strain. It was when they started looking at other aspects of staying connected, for example, they saw that individuals were very focused on delivering their work, but the team bonds were loosening. So the culture was changing. And this was a team that started suffering a lot of attrition. We know that this is the time that everyone's talking about the Great Reset and people, rethinking about employment and their jobs. This was something they were able to very quickly nip in the bud by understanding that the bonds that kept people connected were getting loosened, and they needed to focus on that. So we've covered a lot of things on leaders, the impact they have, the risk it creates, and given them a way of saying what's going to be important to look at your organization as you transform and lead this new workplace, the new workforce. I'll come to an end by actually asking you some questions now. Looking at what we've discussed, think about these. What impact do your leaders need to be driving? Today, how are your leaders influencing your culture? Their strengths could be creating risks. What risks are those? As you're looking at developing your succession plans, your leadership pipeline, are you considering different types of leadership suited for different leadership roles? And are you supporting employees to increase their resilient agility? Because that's going to make the difference in moving to leadership of the future. Thank you for your time, for your patience. I'm really happy to answer any questions you may have or take this conversation forward.
Right. Thank you, Mira. Ladies and gentlemen, please big round of applause for Mira. Thank you so much, Mira. So a bit of summary about what you have said, what you have explained to us. The focus of leaders has changed. Number one, rethink culture, leadership, and employee experience. Number two, push boundaries to power agility. Number three, unleash digitalization. Number four, embrace perpetual work, reinvention. and last but not least, elevate HR decision science. But I'm more actually interested into leadership in which we have to go beyond competencies, in which you brought leadership impact, the 3P model, which are professional, people, and pioneering. And we kind of get the sense that okay, there are 3 types of model: professional leaders, people leaders, and also pioneering leaders. I would like to invite ladies and gentlemen, our participants, to ask questions to Mira. But first and foremost, is that possible for a leader to have these 3 models at once? They are good at managing people, but they are really rigid and, specialist, and having the ability to provide technical knowledge, but they are also pioneering leader. Is that possible, Mira?
Everything is possible. We're people, but it's not very common. So you may get an individual who really is a great leader across the board. But for most of us, we have areas of strength and areas of challenge. So I would normally tend to see people with more impact in one of the 3 areas. Hopefully, most of our leaders will be able to build their impact in the people area. But from just thinking about the last 5 years, I'm seeing a lot of leaders doing great with professional impact and a number of leaders doing great with pioneering impact. There does seem to be a little bit more of a gap in the people area. This is a broad statement.
Right, so it's possible for us to maybe mix and match about these 3 models, maybe 2 out of 3 models into our own, in which we are really, for example, so expert in providing technical knowledge, but we also have that kind of human interaction sense and, social interaction sense, that sort of thing, if you understand what I mean.
Exactly.
Right.
And
So
if I
we've got
just kind of, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
We've only got 5 minutes left, and there's a question from Kita Tama. There's a concept in the market that currently leadership is required not only to deliver excellent performance for the current job, but also to explore solutions in order to find the future of business. So there are 2 things here: deliver excellent performance, and also explore solutions in order to find the future of business. What is your take, Mira, on that view? And if you agree, how would you advise leaders to master both skills?
I think that is a great question because we do need leaders to continue to deliver business as usual in a sense, while being open to this transformation, continuously looking to say, how could things be better? What are new ideas we could bring? So we are seeing more of an importance for everyone to also pick up some of those elements of pioneering impact. And that is leadership of the future, where at all levels as well, not just at senior leadership, we have individuals who take charge, whether it's of their careers, whether it is about improving their way they work, whether it is about finding more impact and making more impact on their team.
Thank you. Next question. This is very interesting. It's so personal. I haven't figured out who sent this question. If the committee could put the name of this questioner, that would be helpful. I'm an introvert and feel uncomfortable making close relationship with other people, but I am currently the head of the marketing team. As someone who is not really a people person, should we learn skills to make us more of a people leader, though it's uncomfortable? Or should we shift our focus on becoming another type of leader that is more of my capacity?
That's such an excellent question. As I coach leaders, I tell them the idea is not to change who you are. The idea is to increase your impact in areas that you want to increase your impact. So, as marketing head, if you feel it's going to be valuable to your team for you to have a broader network, then we say find ways to mitigate the impact of the fact that you don't like to go out there and talk to people you don't know. So it's a question not of just building your skills, but also finding workarounds. To someone who's an introvert, I would say, partner up with someone else, maybe a head of another department or someone who reports to you who's very sociable, and then lean on their friendships and their instinct to slowly build those skills. I worked with the CEO. I'm sorry, I didn't pick that up.
Sorry, Mira. What can I help you? Do you need any guidance about the previous question, or we need to move forward to the next question? All right, I think it's better for us to move forward to the next question. We are still preparing for the next question. It's from Isma Maudi, Mira. In the digital era, it changes the mindset of a leader to see the world from a very different perspective and even allows the vision of dreams to come true. My question is, how does a leader see and prepare him or herself to face the metaverse as an opportunity for a better future? Or will it be a threat? And will live communication become unattractive and overpowered by virtual communication? A bit of foresighting, maybe.
What we have seen in every bit of the work we've done, the research we've looked at in terms of, automation taking over, robots taking over, we find the human communication being something that cannot be replaced. In fact, as we become more technologically advanced, it seems there is more pressure on us to be able to be more human. We will see the kind of routine work going away, and the work that's going to stay, the work that's going to be higher paid, is going to be work that is about connections, about connecting with people, about being innovative and creative. So I do think that paradoxically, with so much technology, the pressure on us is to increase the connectivity human to human.
Thank you. I think this is going to be the last question we have. It was such an enlightening presentation, ma'am. And based on your explanation about the leader's roles, it means a competency profile can't be generated for all field managers or leaders, even if they are in the same level or grade in the hierarchy. So the requirement or leadership profile needed depends on the job profile. Isn't that true? Or
Exactly.
it is more depending on the characteristic of the team they lead?
So there is a link between the profile of the leader and the situations in which they will be most successful. So you're right that as we were perhaps determining who would be a better leader, you would look at the situational impact as well. To do that would really require going into a report which looks at an individual's assessment across all of this. But the team does have a role to play in determining who may be a more effective leader of a specific team based on specific challenges.
I think we have reached our end of the session, Mira, but I think we'd like to have your final words on what it takes to be an effective leader amid uncertain times like this. Although we see the light at the end of the tunnel, because a significant number of Indonesians, and I believe Singaporeans as well, where you live, have been vaccinated, and we see the end of the pandemic. Although new threats of the new variant and etc. are coming as well, what the leaders need to do in order to make effective leaders and to be agile to face uncertainties like this?
This is an opportunity. We've been forced to make so many changes that would have taken us years and years to make. So use this opportunity to try new things. Understand yourself first. And I think leadership self-awareness is going to be the biggest thing that's going to support you to realize how you can build your strengths, how you can leverage those strengths to have greater impact, and how you can mitigate or manage the impact of any sort of risk that your style your strength may be creating. So look within, learn about yourselves. That's going to be all the difference, because change is going to continue. Today, it's the pandemic.
Ladies
Who
and
knows what's
gentlemen.
coming tomorrow?
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big applause for Mira Gajraj Mohan. Thank you so much, Mira. It's a rare opportunity for us, and we are privileged to have you on board, and hopefully to see you soon. And please stay safe, Mira. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.